Devin Carter, a black single father, sits frozen with his sobbing 5-year-old daughter, his cheek still burning from the flight attendant's unexpected slap. The cabin falls silent as the woman suddenly pales, recognizing the airline owner's distinctive signet ring on his finger. Too late, she realizes her devastating mistake as Devin quietly whispers, "This will be the last flight you ever work." Before we dive into this shocking story, let me know where you're watching from in the comments. Hit that like button right now if you've ever witnessed discrimination while traveling. Subscribe to our channel for more true stories about people who face prejudice but turn the tables in unexpected ways. Now, let's rewind and see how this flight attendant's career crashed before takeoff. The morning sun streamed through the windows of Devin Carter's modest suburban home as he packed the last essentials for his business trip to New York. Despite being worth over $300 million, Devin lived in a comfortable but unassuming house. His wealth came from revolutionizing cybersecurity software that now protected half of America's financial institutions, but he never flaunted his success. "Daddy, can I bring Mr. Whiskers?" 5-year-old Zara held up her favorite stuffed cat, her dark curls bouncing as she hopped from one foot to the other in excitement. "Of course, Princess. Mr. Whiskers needs his first plane ride, too." Devin smiled, though the expression didn't quite reach his eyes. 2 years had passed since cancer took his wife Amara, and raising Zara alone remained his greatest challenge and joy. Every milestone reminded him of Amara's absence. Devin zipped up Zara's pink suitcase and checked his watch. "Time to go, sweetie. Our car should be outside." What made this trip different was that they weren't flying on just any airline. 3 weeks earlier, Devin had quietly acquired majority ownership of Skyline Airlines, a mid-sized carrier struggling with financial troubles and customer service issues. The acquisition wasn't public knowledge yet. Only the board and top executives knew about the change in ownership. "I want to experience Skyline as a regular customer," Devin had told his executive team. "No special treatment, no announcements. I need to see exactly what our passengers experience." His chief operations officer, Terrence Washington, had protested. "At least let the flight crew know who you are." Devin had refused. "That defeats the whole purpose. I'll be traveling with my daughter. First class, but otherwise just a normal passenger." As their town car pulled up to the departures terminal at Atlanta International Airport, Devin felt a familiar tightening in his chest. Public spaces always brought the possibility of uncomfortable encounters. He'd learned long ago that success didn't shield him from prejudice. Sometimes it even intensified it. "Ready for our adventure, Zara?" Devin helped his daughter out of the car. "Ready, Daddy." She clutched Mr. Whiskers tightly. The first signs of trouble appeared at the first-class check-in counter. The attendant glanced up, then down at her. "Computer," her smile faltering slightly. "Checking in for New York?" she asked, her tone noticeably cooler than with the previous passengers. "Yes, Devin and Zara Carter." He handed over their identification. The woman typed slowly, glancing between Devin and her screen. "And how did you book these first-class tickets?" Devin maintained his calm. "Through the website, same as anyone else." "I see." Her lips pursed. "Well, everything seems to be in order, surprisingly." The last word was barely audible, but Devin caught it. "Is there a problem?" Devin asked evenly. No problem at all." Her smile never reached her eyes as she handed over their boarding passes. "Enjoy your flight." Next came security, where despite the priority lane for first-class passengers, Devin was pulled aside for random additional screening. He noticed the white executives in suits passing through without a second glance. "Daddy, why do they want to check your shoes?" Zara asked innocently as Devin patiently removed his footwear. "Sometimes they just need to make extra sure, sweetheart," he answered, catching the eye of the TSA agent who had the decency to look slightly embarrassed. By the time they reached the gate, boarding had already begun. Devin held Zara's hand as they waited in the first-class line, aware of the subtle glances from other passengers. He'd dressed comfortably for the flight in dark jeans and a simple button-down shirt, nothing that screamed millionaire, but he knew that wasn't why people were looking. "First-class boarding now in progress," announced the gate agent, barely glancing up as she scanned their boarding passes. Enjoy your flight." As they stepped onto the plane, Devon nodded politely to the flight attendants. One, a young man with a name tag reading James, smiled genuinely and welcomed them aboard. The other, a blonde woman in her 40s whose tag read Cassandra Wilson, merely glanced at their boarding passes with thinly veiled suspicion. "First class is to your right," she said unnecessarily, as if they might not know. Devon guided Zara to their seats, 2A and 2B, by the window. He helped her get settled, storing their carry-ons in the overhead compartment. "Is this your first time in first class?" Cassandra appeared beside them, her tone suggesting she already knew the answer. "No," Devon replied simply, buckling Zara's seatbelt. "Well, just so you know, these seats are assigned." Her emphasis on assigned made her implication clear. Devon took a deep breath and handed her their boarding passes. "Yes, and these are our assigned seats, 2A and 2B. Cassandra examined the passes with exaggerated scrutiny, then handed them back with a tight smile. "So they are. How nice for you." As she walked away, Zara tugged on Devon's sleeve. "Daddy, why is that lady mad at us?" Devon stroked his daughter's hair. "She's probably just having a bad day, sweetie." But as they watched Cassandra warmly welcome an older white couple to first class, offering to hang their coats and bring pre-flight champagne, Devon knew better. This was going to be a long flight, and another opportunity to show Zara how to maintain dignity in the face of prejudice. The cabin filled as boarding continued. Devon helped Zara arrange her coloring books and Mr. Whiskers on the spacious tray table. From the corner of his eye, he noticed Cassandra speaking in hushed tones with James near the galley, occasionally glancing in their direction. A distinguished-looking white man in an expensive suit took the seat across the aisle, nodding curtly to Devon before immediately donning noise-canceling headphones. Moments later, Cassandra appeared with a glass of champagne. "Mr. Whitfield, so lovely to see you again. Still prefer the Veuve Clicquot?" she gushed. "Thank you, Cassandra. You always remember." The man smiled appreciatively. Devon pulled out his phone to check emails before takeoff, finding several from his executive team about the Skyline acquisition. One from the communications director caught his attention. Board member Peterson may have leaked acquisition info to his inner circle. "Preparing statement just in case. Need your approval." Devon frowned. He'd wanted to inspect operations before making any changes or announcements. If word got out prematurely, it could complicate things. The captain's voice came over the intercom. "Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome aboard Skyline Airlines, Flight 1426 to New York. We're expecting clear skies and an on-time arrival. We also have some special guests aboard today, so we'll be doing our absolute best to make this flight exceptional." Devon raised an eyebrow. The special guest's comment suggested someone knew he was on board, but the flight crew's behavior indicated otherwise. Perhaps the captain was referring to someone else entirely. As the safety demonstration began, Devon noticed Cassandra performing her duties with practiced efficiency, but never once making eye contact with him or Zara. When she offered magazines to first-class passengers, she somehow managed to skip their row entirely. Devon settled back in his seat, mentally taking notes. As the owner of Skyline Airlines, he was getting quite an education already. This wasn't just about one flight attendant's behavior. It was about a culture that allowed such treatment to occur without consequence. The plane taxied toward the runway, and Zara pressed her face against the window in excitement. Devon smiled, determined not to let anything spoil his daughter's first flight on what was now, unknowingly to most, their airline. The seatbelt sign dinged off 20 minutes after takeoff, and the first-class cabin hummed with activity as passengers adjusted their seats and flight attendants prepared for service. Devon helped Zara with her tablet, setting up her favorite educational game while she hugged Mr. Whiskers close. Cassandra appeared with a drinks cart, starting with the passengers across the aisle. Her demeanor was all smiles and attentiveness. "Mr. Whitfield, your usual scotch on the rocks, and Mrs. Thompson still sparkling water with lime." Devon observed how she remembered each passenger's preferences, addressing the white travelers by name with warm familiarity. When she finally reached their row, her expression shifted subtly. "What would you like to drink?" Her tone was flat, impersonal. "Apple juice for my daughter, please, and coffee for me. Black, no sugar." Devon maintained his polite demeanor. Cassandra handed Zara a plastic cup of apple juice without a word, then turned to move on. "Excuse me," Devon said. "I also asked for coffee." "Oh, I must have forgotten. I'll bring it on my next round." She didn't apologize or look back as she continued down the aisle. Zara sipped her juice quietly before asking, "Why didn't the lady bring your coffee, Daddy? Did she forget?" "I think she might be very busy, sweetheart." Devon stroked his daughter's hair, wondering how much she perceived of these interactions. 20 minutes passed. Cassandra had completed her service to the entire first-class cabin, yet Devon's coffee never appeared. James, the other flight attendant, passed by and noticed Devon without a beverage. "Can I get you something to drink, sir?" he asked. "Coffee black would be great. Thank you." James returned promptly with the coffee, placing it carefully on Devon's tray with a napkin. "Sorry for the wait. Enjoy." "Thank you, James," Devon said, reading his name tag and offering a genuine smile. From the galley, Devon overheard Cassandra's voice, intentionally loud enough to carry. "They always want extra attention, as if they deserve special treatment just for being here." A white woman seated in front of Devon turned around, leaning over her seat. "Excuse me, flight attendant. I'm feeling a bit uncomfortable with my seating arrangement. Is there any possibility of moving?" Cassandra rushed over immediately. "What seems to be the problem, ma'am?" The woman glanced meaningfully at Devon and Zara. I'd prefer a different seat if possible." Devon felt a familiar knot forming in his stomach as he realized what was happening. The woman didn't want to sit near them. "Let me check if we have availability," Cassandra replied, sympathetically, disappearing to the front of the cabin. Zara looked up from her tablet. "Daddy, why does that lady want to move? Are we too noisy?" Devon swallowed hard. "No, princess. You're being perfect. Sometimes people just prefer different seats. I think your daughter is being absolutely delightful," came a voice from across the aisle. An elderly white gentleman with kind eyes smiled at them. "First flight?" he asked Zara. She nodded enthusiastically. "Yes, and Mr. Whisker's first flight too." She held up her stuffed cat. "Well, you're both doing splendidly," the man said, then glanced at Devon with understanding in his eyes. Cassandra returned and helped the uncomfortable woman relocate to a seat farther forward, away from Devon and Zara. As she passed their row again, Devon decided to address the situation directly. "Excuse me, Cassandra," he said, reading her name tag even though he'd noted it earlier. "I couldn't help but notice some inconsistencies in the service. Is there a particular reason?" Her eyes widened slightly at being confronted. "I'm not sure what you mean. We treat all our passengers equally." "Do you?" "Because I've observed several discrepancies that suggest otherwise." Cassandra's expression hardened. "Sir, if you have a complaint, you're welcome to submit it through customer service after the flight. Right now, I have duties to attend to. Of course, I'll be sure to document everything thoroughly." Devon's tone remained professional but firm. As Cassandra walked away, her posture rigid, Zara tugged at Devon's sleeve. "Daddy, why doesn't the mean lady like us?" The question pierced Devon's heart. He turned to face his daughter fully. "Sometimes, Zara, people make judgments based on how we look rather than who we are. It's not right and it's not fair, but it happens. Because our skin is brown?" Zara's innocent question revealed her awareness, even at 5 years old. Devon nodded sadly. "Yes, sometimes because of that. But you remember what Mommy used to say?" Zara's face brightened at the mention of her mother. "Our skin is like the earth, rich and full of life." "That's right," Devon smiled. "And what else? What matters is here," she pointed to her heart. "And here She tapped her temple. Exactly. Never forget that. Devon kissed the top of her head, proud of her wisdom yet heartbroken that she needed it so young. The pilot's voice came over the intercom again. Ladies and gentlemen, we have a special announcement today. We're honored to have some VIP guests aboard our flight to New York. We hope you're enjoying the premium Skyline experience. Devon raised an eyebrow. That was the second reference to special passengers. Perhaps someone had indeed recognized him, or maybe another celebrity or executive was on board. Either way, the premium experience mentioned was certainly not what he and Zara were receiving. Devon pulled out his phone and opened his notes app, beginning to document each interaction meticulously. If he was going to transform this airline, he needed concrete examples of where service failed. Though he'd faced discrimination countless times before, this instance would actually lead to meaningful change. He had the power to ensure it. Cassandra passed by their row again, this time with James. She spoke just loudly enough for Devon to hear. Those people always think everything is about race. They can't just accept that maybe they don't belong in certain spaces. James looked uncomfortable but didn't contradict her. Devon continued typing notes, adding this latest comment. The elderly gentleman across the aisle cleared his throat loudly. "Excuse me, young lady," he called to Cassandra. "I find your comments highly inappropriate and unprofessional. This gentleman and his daughter have conducted themselves with nothing but dignity, while you've shown remarkable discourtesy." Cassandra flushed red. "Sir, I don't know what you think you heard, but I assure you, I heard exactly what you said," the man interrupted. "I may be old, but my hearing is excellent, and so is my sense of right and wrong." Devon gave the man a grateful nod as Cassandra retreated to the galley, her face a mixture of embarrassment and defiance. For a moment, Devon considered revealing his identity, putting an immediate end to the treatment. But his purpose on this flight was to experience the airline as any customer would, and many customers couldn't pull out the "Do you know who I am" card. Devon's phone buzzed with an email notification. Opening it, he read, "Urgent. Peterson definitely leaked acquisition news. Several staff members likely know new ownership details. Preparing for questions. Need your guidance." Devon sighed. If word was spreading, then someone on this flight might already know who he was, which explained the captain's announcement. But clearly, that information hadn't reached Cassandra. A flight announcement indicated they'd reached cruising altitude, and the seatbelt sign turned off. Devon decided to use the first-class restroom before the meal service began. "I'll be right back, Zara. Keep coloring your picture," he said, standing up. He walked toward the front of the cabin where Cassandra was arranging meal trays. "Excuse me, I need to use the restroom." "The economy-class lavatories are toward the back of the plane," she said without looking up. "We're seated in first class," Devon replied evenly. "The forward lavatory is for first-class passengers." Cassandra glanced up, her expression making it clear this was no oversight. "That one's currently being serviced. You'll need to use the ones in economy." Devon looked at the lavatory door, which showed a green vacant indicator. "It appears to be available now." "Sir," Cassandra's voice took on an edge of authority, "I've asked you to use the rear lavatories. If you have a problem with that, I can call the captain." Several first-class passengers were watching the exchange now. Devon weighed his options. Making a scene wouldn't help Zara, but neither would accepting blatant discrimination. Before he could respond, James stepped in. "The forward lavatory is fully operational, sir. Please feel free to use it." Cassandra shot James a look of betrayal as Devon nodded his thanks and entered the bathroom. Inside, he took a deep breath, centering himself. Throughout his life and career, he'd faced countless such moments, times when he was made to feel other, despite his accomplishments, education, or wealth. The familiar mixture of anger, hurt, and resignation washed over him. When he returned to his seat, Zara was chatting animatedly with the elderly gentleman across the aisle, showing him her drawing of their airplane soaring through clouds. "That's quite magnificent," the man was saying. "You have real talent, young lady." "Thank you," Zara beamed. "I'm drawing it for Daddy because he owns—" Devon quickly interjected, Because I love airplanes, right, sweetie? He gave her a meaningful look. They had discussed keeping the ownership a secret, but it was a lot to expect a 5-year-old to remember. Oh, right, Zara nodded seriously. It's a surprise. The elderly man smiled. I'm Walter Robinson, by the way, he said, extending his hand to Devon. Devon Carter, he replied, shaking Walter's hand. And this is my daughter, Zara. Pleasure to meet you both. I apologize for the treatment you're receiving. It's unacceptable. Devon appreciated the acknowledgement. Thank you. Unfortunately, it's not uncommon. That doesn't make it right, Walter replied firmly. I've been flying for 60 years, and I've seen many changes, some for better, some for worse. But common decency should never go out of style. As they spoke, Devon noticed Cassandra receiving a text on her phone. Her eyes widened as she read it, and she quickly showed the message to James. Both glanced toward the cabin, but their gaze settled on an older white man in a business suit, rather than on Devon. I think they've misidentified their VIP, Devon murmured with ironic amusement. The meal service began, with Cassandra once again starting from the opposite end of the cabin. Devon watched as she carefully described each menu option to other passengers, offering recommendations and wine pairings. By the time she reached Devon and Zara, her approach changed dramatically. Chicken or pasta? She asked curtly. Could you please describe the options? Devon requested. Cassandra sighed impatiently. Chicken with sauce. Pasta with sauce. What kind of sauce? My daughter has some food allergies. It's just regular sauce, she replied dismissively. If you have special dietary needs, you should have requested a special meal in advance. Regular sauce isn't a description, Devon persisted. Is it tomato-based? Cream-based? Does it contain nuts or shellfish? James, overhearing, approached with the actual menu card. The chicken comes with a lemon herb sauce, and the pasta has a sun-dried tomato cream sauce. Neither contains nuts or shellfish, but the pasta sauce does have dairy. Thank you, James. We'll both have the chicken, please, Devon decided. As James arranged their trays, Cassandra moved on to the next passengers, her attentiveness immediately returning as she served a white family. Devon helped Zara with her meal, cutting the chicken into bite-sized pieces. Despite the tense atmosphere, he was determined to make this a positive experience for his daughter. This was, after all, her first flight on what was now their airline. Is it yummy? He asked as Zara took a bite. She nodded enthusiastically. The best chicken ever, Daddy. Devon smiled, taking a bite of his own meal. It was actually quite good. The food quality wasn't the issue here. As he ate, he continued, making mental notes about service improvements, determined that no future passenger would experience what they were enduring today. Halfway through the meal service, Cassandra appeared with beverages. She carefully placed wine glasses for adult passengers and offered a selection of drinks. When she reached Devon and Zara, she hurriedly set down 2 water glasses. Wait, Devon said before she could rush off again. Could we get some juice for my daughter and perhaps a coffee for me? Cassandra's smile tightened. Of course. I'll bring those right away. 10 minutes passed. Other passengers had received their requested beverages, but Devon and Zara continued waiting. Devon caught James's eye, who nodded in understanding, and approached their seats. Can I get you something to drink? He asked. Apple juice for my daughter and coffee for me, please. Black, no sugar. Coming right up, James replied with a genuine smile. When James returned with their drinks, Cassandra appeared suddenly at his side. I was just about to serve them, she said with forced pleasantness. Just helping out, James responded diplomatically, placing the drinks on their trays. As Devon reached for his coffee, Cassandra bumped his elbow, causing the hot liquid to spill across his lap and onto his laptop, which he'd been using to review presentation materials for his New York meetings. Oh, Cassandra exclaimed, not sounding particularly sorry. Let me get you some napkins. Devon jumped up, the hot coffee soaking through his pants. Zara's eyes widened in alarm. Daddy, are you hurt? I'm okay, Princess, Devon assured her, though his leg was burning. He quickly grabbed his laptop, which was now dripping coffee from its keyboard. Have you ever experienced someone accidentally causing you harm that didn't seem accidental at all? Comment number 1 if you've been in a situation where someone's mistake seemed intentional. Like this video if you think Devin should have revealed his identity right then and there, and subscribe to our channel for more stories about justice being served in unexpected ways. What would you have done in Devin's position? Hold that thought as we continue with this unforgettable flight. Here, James rushed over with a handful of cloth napkins, genuine concern in his eyes. Let me help clean that up. Devin tried wiping down his laptop, but it was too late. The screen flickered and went dark. The device contained his presentation for tomorrow's meeting, a presentation that would have introduced major changes to improve Skyline Airlines' service and corporate culture. The irony wasn't lost on him. I'm so sorry about the accident, Cassandra said, her tone suggesting it was anything but. These things happen. Devin took a deep breath, maintaining his composure. Yes, they do seem to happen quite selectively. Several passengers had witnessed the incident. An older white woman shook her head in disapproval, though whether at Devin or Cassandra wasn't clear. A younger black woman across the aisle caught Devin's eye and gave him a look of understanding and sympathy. Zara's lower lip trembled. Daddy, why is the mean lady being so mean to us? The question, asked loudly in a child's innocent voice, caused several passengers to turn and look. Cassandra's face flushed red. I assure you, young lady, I'm treating everyone with the same level of service, Cassandra responded directly to Zara, her voice sickeningly sweet. No, you're not, Zara replied with the straightforward honesty of a 5-year-old. You're being nice to everyone else and mean to us. Is it because we're brown? A hushed silence fell over the first-class cabin. Devin's heart swelled with pride at his daughter's perceptiveness and courage, but he also felt a pang of sadness that she already understood such realities. Cassandra's face paled, then reddened again. I don't know what your father has been telling you, but race has nothing to do with it. Walter, the elderly gentleman across the aisle, cleared his throat loudly. Young lady, he addressed Cassandra. I've been observing your service this entire flight, and I must say this child's assessment is remarkably accurate. Your behavior has been appalling. Sir, with all due respect, you don't understand the situation, Cassandra replied tensely. I understand exactly what I've witnessed, Walter insisted. I've lived through the civil rights movement and watched this country struggle with its prejudices for decades. What you're displaying today is precisely the kind of behavior we should have left behind long ago. Other passengers began murmuring, some in agreement, others uncomfortable with the confrontation. Devin noticed several people discreetly recording the interaction on their phones. Cassandra retreated to the galley, and James approached with more napkins and a plastic bag for Devin's wet laptop. I sincerely apologize, sir, James said quietly. This isn't what Skyline Airlines stands for. I certainly hope not, Devin replied, carefully placing his ruined laptop in the bag. I'd be interested to know what training your flight attendants receive regarding equal treatment of passengers. James looked uncomfortable. It's minimal, to be honest. A video during orientation and some pamphlets, nothing substantial. Devin nodded, adding this information to his mental notes. Customer service training and anti-bias education would be among his first initiatives as owner. While Devin was dealing with the coffee incident, Zara continued coloring, trying to stay cheerful despite the tension. A young white boy from across the aisle walked over, curious about her drawing. That's a cool airplane, he said, pointing to her picture. Zara smiled proudly. Thank you. It's this airplane, and that's me and my daddy. She pointed to 2 stick figures with brown faces in the windows. The boy's mother immediately called him back. Tyler, come sit down right now. But Mom, I just wanted to see her drawing, the boy protested. Now, Tyler, the woman insisted, giving Devin an apologetic yet uncomfortable glance. Devin helped Zara continue with her coloring, trying to distract her from the increasing tension in the cabin. He noticed several passengers, whispering and looking their way, some sympathetic, others critical. Devin's phone buzzed with another email. Board members demanding emergency meeting regarding passenger incident on Flight 1426. Videos apparently circulating online. Need response strategy. Devon frowned. Someone must be uploading footage of the coffee incident in real time using the plane's Wi-Fi. This situation was escalating beyond the confines of the aircraft. Suddenly, the captain's voice came over the intercom. "Ladies and gentlemen, we're experiencing some light turbulence ahead. Please return to your seats and fasten your seatbelts." Devon secured Zara's seatbelt, then his own. The plane began to jostle slightly, causing the overhead bins to rattle. Zara gripped the armrests, her eyes wide. "It's okay, sweetie," Devon reassured her. "Just a little bumpy air, like driving on a gravel road." The turbulence intensified, and the plane dropped suddenly, causing several passengers to gasp. Zara whimpered, clutching Mr. Whiskers tightly. "Daddy, I'm scared," she whispered. Devon held her hand. "I know, princess, but the pilots know exactly what they're doing. This happens all the time." Cassandra walked briskly through the cabin, checking that seatbelts were fastened. When she reached Devon and Zara, she barely glanced at them before moving on. The plane shuddered again, more violently this time. A passenger's drink toppled over and someone in the back of the plane screamed. Zara began breathing rapidly, a sign Devon recognized immediately. "Zara, look at me," he said firmly but gently. "Remember our counting game? Let's breathe in for 4 counts, hold for 4, out for 4. She tried to follow along, but her breathing became more labored. Devon recognized the signs immediately. Zara was having an asthma attack, triggered by stress and anxiety. "My bag," he said urgently, trying to reach under the seat in front of him where he'd stowed Zara's emergency inhaler. As the plane continued to shake, Devon struggled to reach the bag. Zara's breathing grew more strained, her small face contorted with effort. "Please, my daughter needs her inhaler," Devon called out, his voice cutting through the cabin noise. James rushed over immediately. "What can I do to help?" "Her inhaler is in my bag under the seat, but I can't quite reach it with the seatbelt on," Devon explained, still trying to comfort Zara, who was beginning to wheeze audibly. James knelt down and retrieved the bag, handing it to Devon, who frantically searched for the inhaler. Cassandra appeared beside them, her expression skeptical. "What's going on here?" "She's having an asthma attack," Devon explained tersely, still searching through the bag. "I need to find her inhaler." "Sir, you need to remain seated with your seatbelt fastened during turbulence," Cassandra insisted. "My daughter can't breathe." Devon's voice rose with urgency as Zara's wheezing worsened. Walter unbuckled his seatbelt and stood up. "For God's sake, the child needs help. Sir, please remain seated," Cassandra ordered. Devon finally located the inhaler at the bottom of his bag and pulled it out. As he turned to administer it to Zara, the plane hit another patch of turbulence, causing him to lurch forward. Cassandra reached out reflexively and knocked the inhaler from his hand. "What are you doing?" Devon shouted as the life-saving device skittered down the aisle. "I thought you were reaching for a weapon," Cassandra exclaimed, loud enough for nearby passengers to hear. The cabin fell into shocked silence, broken only by Zara's desperate wheezing. "A weapon?" Devon repeated incredulously. "My 5-year-old daughter can't breathe and you thought I was reaching for a weapon?" James immediately rushed down the aisle, retrieving the inhaler. "Here, sir," he said, hurriedly returning it to Devon. Devon quickly administered the medication to Zara, helping her take the necessary puffs. "Breathe slowly, princess. That's it. In and out." Gradually, Zara's breathing eased, her small body relaxing as the medication took effect. Devon held her close, relief washing over him. "Better?" he asked softly. She nodded against his chest, still clutching Mr. Whiskers tightly. Devon looked up to find most of the first-class cabin staring at them. Several passengers had their phones out, recording the incident. Cassandra stood rigid, her face a mixture of defensiveness and dawning horror at what had just transpired. "You thought he was reaching for a weapon?" Walter asked incredulously. "What possible reason would you have to assume that?" Cassandra stammered. Security protocols require us to be vigilant about unusual movements during turbulence. Unusual movements like a father trying to help his child breathe? The young black woman across the aisle challenged. Or is it just unusual when certain passengers make those movements? Other passengers began voicing their opinions, some defending Cassandra, others expressing outrage. The tension in the cabin had reached a breaking point. Devon remained focused on Zara, ensuring her breathing continued to normalize. His priority was his daughter's well-being, not confronting the flight attendant's prejudice, at least not at this moment. "Daddy," Zara whispered once she could speak again, "why did the lady think you had a weapon?" Devon stroked her hair, choosing his words carefully. "Sometimes people make wrong assumptions based on fear rather than facts, but you don't need to worry about that now. Just focus on breathing, okay?" As the turbulence subsided and the cabin settled, Devon became aware of the captain making another announcement. "Ladies and gentlemen, we've passed through the turbulence and should have smooth flying for the remainder of our journey to New York. Flight attendants may now resume service." Devon checked his watch. Still 2 hours remaining in this flight. 2 more hours of this treatment. 2 more hours of protecting Zara from the harsh realities of prejudice that she was already beginning to understand. James approached with a cup of water for Zara. "Is there anything else I can get for her? Juice might help with her blood sugar after an attack." "Apple juice would be great, thank you," Devon replied, appreciating the genuine concern. Cassandra remained at the front of the cabin, speaking in hushed tones with another flight attendant who had come forward from economy. Their glances toward Devon suggested he was the topic of conversation. Devon's phone buzzed again. Another urgent email from his executive team. Multiple videos of incident on Flight 1426 now viral. Press requesting comment. Crisis management team activated. Please advise on preferred response. The situation had escalated beyond anything Devon had anticipated. What began as a fact-finding mission about his new airline had become a very public incident of discrimination. How many other passengers had faced similar treatment without the resources or platform to address it? As Zara sipped her juice, Devon made a decision. This experience, painful as it was, would become the catalyst for real change at Skyline Airlines. No passenger should ever be treated differently because of their race, appearance, or any other factor beyond their character. The cabin's atmosphere remained tense following Zara's asthma attack. Devon monitored his daughter carefully, relieved that her breathing had stabilized, but concerned about the emotional impact of the incident. She colored quietly beside him, occasionally glancing nervously toward Cassandra whenever the flight attendant passed by. Devon noticed several passengers still filming discreetly with their phones. What had begun as a routine flight had transformed into a documented case of discrimination that was apparently going viral, even as they remained in the air. Devon checked his phone again, seeing multiple notifications from his executive team about the developing situation. Cassandra had retreated to the galley, clearly avoiding their row, while James took over most of the first-class service. The young flight attendant approached with a concerned expression. "How is she doing?" he asked quietly, nodding toward Zara. "Better, thank you," Devon replied. The inhaler worked quickly. "I'm truly sorry about what happened," James said, his voice low. "If there's anything else she needs, please let me know directly." Devon appreciated the young man's sincerity. "Actually, could you bring her some apple juice? It helps after an attack." "Right away," James nodded, hurrying to fulfill the request. The plane hit another pocket of turbulence, milder than before but enough to rattle the overhead bins. Zara tensed immediately, her hands gripping the armrests. "It's okay, Princess," Devon soothed. "Just a little bump." The captain's voice came, over the intercom. "Folks, we're experiencing some additional turbulence. Please remain in your seats with your seatbelts fastened until further notice." James returned with Zara's juice, carefully placing it on her tray table. "The captain expects we'll be through this rough patch in about 15 minutes. "Thank you, James," Devon said, helping Zara with her drink. From the front of the cabin, Devon noticed Cassandra on her phone, reading something with a troubled expression. She showed her screen to another flight attendant, both looking alarmed. Their eyes darted toward Devon, then quickly away when they realized he was watching. The turbulence intensified suddenly, causing the plane to drop sharply. Drinks spilled, passengers gasped, and a few overhead bins popped open. Panic rippled through the cabin as oxygen masks deployed in one section due to the sudden pressure change. "Daddy!" Zara cried, terrified by the violent movement and the commotion around them. Devon held her hand tightly. "I'm right here, Zara. Everything's going to be fine." He could see her breathing becoming rapid again, a potential precursor to another asthma attack. The earlier incident had already weakened her, making her more vulnerable to a second episode. "Let's find your inhaler again, just to be safe," Devon said, reaching for his bag under the seat. As he bent forward, he felt the distinctive symptoms of an impending attack in Zara. Her hand became clammy, her breathing more labored. Stress and fear were triggering her asthma again, and this episode seemed to be developing more rapidly than the first. "I need the inhaler now," Devon said urgently, pulling his bag onto his lap and searching through it frantically. Zara's wheezing became audible. Several nearby passengers turned in concern. Walter unbuckled his seatbelt again, ready to help despite the turbulence. "Hang on, sweetheart," Devon urged as he located the inhaler at the bottom of the bag. Relief washed over him as he pulled it out. Cassandra appeared suddenly at their row, her expression severe. "Sir? What are you doing?" "My daughter's having another asthma attack," Devon explained tersely, focusing on Zara, who was struggling to breathe. "I need to give her the inhaler." "Put your hands where I can see them," Cassandra demanded loudly, drawing attention from throughout the cabin. Devon stared at her in disbelief. "What? My daughter can't breathe." "I need to see what you're holding," Cassandra insisted, her voice rising with authority. "Place it on the tray table slowly." "It's her inhaler," Devon said, holding it up. "The same one from before. She needs it now." Instead of backing down, Cassandra reached for the inhaler. "I'll need to inspect that." "There's no time," Devon protested as Zara's wheezing worsened. In the struggle that followed, Cassandra knocked the inhaler from Devon's hand. The life-saving device clattered to the floor and slid several rows forward. "No!" Devon shouted, unbuckling his seatbelt to retrieve it. "Sir, remain in your seat," Cassandra ordered, physically blocking his path. "My daughter can't breathe." Devon's voice carried through the cabin, raw with desperation and anger. Walter stood up despite the turbulence. "For God's sake, let him get the inhaler!" James rushed forward from the galley, quickly assessing the situation. He spotted the inhaler and retrieved it from under a seat, hurrying back to Devon and Zara. "Here," he said, handing it to Devon, who immediately administered the medication to his struggling daughter. As Zara took the life-saving puffs, Devon held her steady, murmuring reassurances. "That's it, princess. Slow breaths. You're doing great." The other passengers watched in stunned silence as the scene unfolded. Many had their phones out, recording the incident. The tension in the cabin was palpable. Cassandra remained standing in the aisle, her face flushed. He wasn't complying with safety protocols during turbulence. "His child couldn't breathe," Walter shot back, his voice sharp with indignation. "What kind of protocol puts a child's life at risk?" "I was doing my job," Cassandra insisted, though uncertainty had begun to creep into her voice as she registered the reactions of the other passengers. As Zara's breathing gradually normalized, Devon turned his attention to Cassandra. His voice was controlled but vibrating with suppressed emotion. "You deliberately prevented me from helping my daughter during a medical emergency. Twice." "I was ensuring cabin safety," Cassandra replied defensively. "Your movements were erratic and concerning." "Concerning?" Devon repeated incredulously. "What exactly did you find concerning about a father trying to help his child breathe?" The question hung in the air, its implications clear to everyone listening. Cassandra stammered, unable to provide a reasonable answer. Devon held Zara close, comforting her as she recovered from the attack. "It's okay now, princess. Just keep taking slow, deep breaths." Zara looked up at him with tear-filled eyes. "Why doesn't she want me to breathe, Daddy?" The innocent question, spoken loudly enough for nearby passengers to hear, sent a ripple of shocked murmurs through the cabin. Cassandra's face paled. "That's not true," she protested. "I would never want to harm a child." "Your actions suggest otherwise," Walter remarked coldly. Devon stroked Zara's hair, choosing his words carefully. "She doesn't understand what she's doing, sweetheart. But you're safe now. I won't let anything happen to you." As he comforted his daughter, Devon became aware of Cassandra speaking in hushed, urgent tones with James and another flight attendant. They seemed to be arguing about how to handle the situation. The turbulence had subsided, but the tension in the cabin continued to build. Devon noticed several passengers typing furiously on their phones, likely sharing accounts of what they'd witnessed on social media. After ensuring Zara was breathing normally again, Devon turned to comfort her, wiping tears from her cheeks. "You're so brave, princess. Just like Mommy." Zara sniffled. "I wish Mommy was here." "Me too," Devon whispered, feeling the familiar ache of Amara's absence. "But she's watching over us, remember? And she'd be so proud of how brave you're being." As Devon held his daughter close, Cassandra approached their row again, this time with a different demeanor. Her voice was artificially pleasant, her smile strained. "I want to apologize for the misunderstanding. Is there anything I can get for your daughter? Perhaps some juice or a snack?" The abrupt change in attitude struck Devon as suspicious. Before he could respond, Walter interjected from across the aisle. "A bit late for that, isn't it? After you nearly caused a tragedy?" Cassandra's smile faltered. "Sir, I assure you that wasn't my intention." "Then what exactly was your intention?" Devon asked quietly, his voice level but intense. "When you knocked the inhaler away, when you blocked me from retrieving it, what was the intention behind those actions?" Cassandra opened her mouth to respond, then closed it again, seeming to realize there was no acceptable answer. Devon continued, his voice gaining strength. "I'd like to speak with the captain, please." "The captain is busy flying the aircraft," Cassandra replied automatically. "If you have concerns, I can—" "I insist on speaking with the captain," Devon interrupted firmly. "Now." James stepped forward. "I'll inform the captain of your request, sir." As James headed toward the cockpit, Cassandra remained standing, by their row, visibly uncomfortable under the stares of the other passengers. Devon turned his attention back to Zara, helping her sip some water and making sure her breathing remained stable. The ordeal had exhausted her, and she leaned heavily against him, clutching Mr. Whiskers for comfort. "Why don't you try to rest a little, princess?" Devon suggested gently. "We still have some time before we land." Zara nodded sleepily, the medication making her drowsy. "Don't leave me, Daddy." "Never," Devon promised, adjusting her seat to a more comfortable position. As Zara began to doze off, Devon became aware of increasing murmurs throughout the cabin. Passengers were showing each other their phones, apparently viewing videos of the incident that were already circulating online. James returned from the cockpit with a concerned expression. "The captain would like to speak with you, sir. If you'd follow me?" Devon glanced at Zara, reluctant to leave her side after the frightening episodes. Walter leaned across the aisle. "I'll keep an eye on her, son. You go ahead." Devon nodded gratefully. "Thank you. I'll be right back, Zara," he whispered to his drowsy daughter. "Mr. Walter is going to sit with you for a minute." As Devon stood to follow James, Cassandra stepped in front of him once more. Her previous defensiveness had transformed into barely contained panic. "Sir, I'm sure whatever concerns you have can be addressed through proper channels after we land." "I believe the captain wants to speak with me now," Devon replied calmly, moving past her. As he walked toward the cockpit, Devon noticed Cassandra frantically texting on her phone, her hands shaking slightly. The other passengers watched the unfolding drama with rapt attention, many still recording. Just as Devon reached the front of the cabin, Cassandra hurried after him, grabbing his arm. "Wait, please." Devon turned, looking pointedly at her, hand on his arm until she removed it. "Yes?" "I just wanted to say that there's been a misunderstanding," she began, her voice pitched low. I had no idea who you were when... When what? Devon asked quietly. When you discriminated against me and my daughter, when you endangered her life, which part was the misunderstanding? Before Cassandra could respond, Devon felt a sudden, sharp impact across his face. The sound of the slap echoed through the hushed cabin. For a moment, everyone froze in shock, including Cassandra herself, who stared at her own hand as if it had acted independently. Devon stood perfectly still, his cheeks stinging from the impact. Behind him, he heard Zara cry out, "Daddy!" followed by the sounds of her scrambling out of her seat. In the stunned silence that followed, Devon slowly raised his hand to his face, touching his cheek where Cassandra had struck him. The signet ring on his finger caught the light, a custom-designed piece featuring the Skyline Airlines logo, worn by senior executives and board members. Cassandra's eyes widened as she recognized the distinctive ring. The color drained from her face as realization dawned. She hadn't just assaulted a passenger, she'd struck the airline's owner. "Oh, my God," she whispered, horror replacing her previous defiance. Devon said nothing as Zara reached him, wrapping her arms around his legs. He lifted her protectively, holding her close as she buried her face against his shoulder. Finally, Devon broke the silence, his voice quiet but carrying clearly through. "The cabin. This will be the last flight you ever work." The slap seemed to hang in the air, a moment frozen in time that changed everything. The entire first-class cabin had witnessed Cassandra's assault, and the shock on her face mirrored the disbelief of the passengers. Devon stood motionless, Zara clutched tightly in his arms, as the reality of what had just occurred settled over the cabin. I didn't mean to," Cassandra stammered, her eyes fixed on Devon's signet ring with the unmistakable Skyline Airlines logo. The same logo that appeared on the company's internal documents and executive communications. James stepped forward immediately, his face pale. "Sir, please come with me to the cockpit right away." Devon nodded, still holding Zara, who was trembling against his chest. "It's okay, Princess," he murmured, though the red mark blooming on his cheek told a different story. As Devon followed James toward the cockpit, whispers erupted throughout the cabin. Passengers leaned toward each other, sharing theories and observations. "Did you see that ring? Isn't that the airline's logo? Do you think he's an executive?" Walter stood from his seat, addressing Cassandra directly. "Young lady, you've just committed assault. I hope you realize the seriousness of your actions." Cassandra seemed unable to move, frozen in place as the implications of what she'd done and who she'd done it to sank in. Her hand still hung in the air where it had connected with Devon's face. Another flight attendant hurried forward, from economy class, assessing the situation with growing alarm. "What happened? Cassandra, what did you do?" "She slapped him," a passenger called out, holding up her phone. "I got it all on video." "We all saw it," added another. Completely unprovoked, the cockpit door opened, and the captain emerged, his expression grave. "Mr. Carter, please come in," he said, gesturing Devon inside. The use of Devon's name sent another ripple of murmurs through the cabin. Passengers turned to their devices, searching for information about Devon Carter and his connection to Skyline Airlines. Inside the cockpit, the captain closed the door behind them. "Mr. Carter, I cannot begin to express how horrified and sorry I am about what just happened. I was informed of your presence on board just 30 minutes ago, but I had no idea of the treatment you were receiving." Devon settled Zara on his lap as he took the offered jump seat. "Captain Reynolds. Michael Reynolds. Captain Reynolds, I boarded this flight intentionally as a regular passenger to experience Skyline's service firsthand. What I've experienced has been educational, to say the least." The captain ran a hand over his face. "Sir, I assure you, what happened today is not representative of our airline's values." "Isn't it, though?" Devon asked quietly. "Because from what I've observed, there seems to be a culture that allows this kind of behavior to go unchecked." The first officer turned, in his seat, his expression earnest. "Mr. Carter, most of us try to do right by our passengers. What Cassandra did was inexcusable." Devon nodded, appreciating the honesty. "I'm not painting everyone with the same brush. Your colleague James, for instance, has been professional and helpful throughout." Zara looked up at her father, her small face still showing signs of distress. "Daddy, why did the mean lady hit you?" Devon stroked her hair, considering how to explain the complexities of prejudice to a 5-year-old. "Sometimes, sweetheart, people act out of fear or anger when they realize they've made a mistake. A very serious mistake," Captain Reynolds added grimly. "Mr. Carter, we've received word from headquarters that videos of the incidents are already circulating online. Your executive team is requesting to speak with you urgently." Devon sighed. This was supposed to be a simple fact-finding mission, a chance to experience his new airline as an ordinary customer would. Instead, it had become a public relations crisis that would require immediate attention. "May I use the aircraft phone to call my team?" Devon asked. "Of course, sir." The captain handed him the secure line. As Devon made the call, Zara remained curled against him, occasionally touching his reddened cheek with concern. The call was brief but intense, with Devon's executive team already mobilizing crisis management protocols. "The videos are going viral, Devon," his communications director explained. "We need to get ahead of this. People are identifying you as the new owner of Skyline." "I understand," Devon replied. "Prepare a statement about our commitment to addressing discrimination and improving customer service across the airline. We'll use this as a catalyst for the changes we were already planning to implement." After ending the call, Devon turned back to the captain. "What's the status of Ms. Wilson?" he asked, referring to Cassandra. "She's been relieved of duties for the remainder of the flight," Captain Reynolds replied. "James and another attendant from economy will handle first class. She's confined to the crew rest area until we land." Devon nodded. "Good. And what about the other passengers? What are they being told?" "Nothing official yet. We wanted to consult with you first, given the circumstances." Devon thought for a moment. "I think transparency is important here. The passengers have witnessed everything. They deserve some context." The captain nodded in agreement. "Would you like to address them yourself?" Devon considered the offer. Part of him wanted to return to his seat and protect Zara from further exposure to the situation. Another part recognized the opportunity to demonstrate leadership in a moment of crisis. "I'll address them briefly," he decided. "But first, I need a moment with my daughter." The captain and first officer respectfully gave them space as Devon turned his full attention to Zara. "Princess, how are you feeling? Is your breathing okay?" Zara nodded. "I'm okay, Daddy. Does your face hurt?" Devon smiled gently. "Just a little. Nothing to worry about." "The lady was mean to us because we're brown, wasn't she?" Zara asked, her perceptiveness once again catching Devon off guard. Devon took a deep breath. "Yes, sweetheart. Some people judge others by their appearance rather than their character. It's wrong, and it's something we need to change. Like Mommy used to say, judge by the heart, not the skin." Devon felt a surge of emotion at the mention of Amara's wisdom living on through their daughter. "Exactly like Mommy said. And you know what? Now that Daddy owns this airline, we can help teach others to do the same." Zara's eyes widened. "We can make the mean lady nice." Devon smiled at his daughter's innocent optimism. "We can try to help everyone learn to be kinder and more fair. That's more important than punishing one person." With Zara reassured, Devon prepared to address the cabin. He carried her back out, where they were met with curious stares from the passengers. James stood at attention, clearly nervous but determined to provide proper service. Devon took the cabin phone and pressed the announcement button. "Ladies and gentlemen, this is Devon Carter speaking. Some of you may have realized by now that I recently became the owner of Skyline Airlines. I boarded this flight today as a regular passenger to experience our service firsthand and to identify areas where we could improve." A murmur ran through the cabin as passengers exchanged glances of surprise and understanding. "What happened today," Devon continued, "is unacceptable on any airline, to any passenger. But I want to assure you that it will serve as a catalyst for meaningful change. At Skyline, every passenger deserves respect, dignity, and safety. regardless of their appearance, background, or any other factor. Devon paused, looking around the cabin at the diverse faces watching him. "I want to thank those of you who spoke up when you saw injustice occurring. Your voices matter. And to those who recorded these incidents, thank you for documenting what too often goes unreported and unaddressed." Walter nodded in approval, while other passengers showed various reactions, ranging from embarrassment to vindication. "When we land in New York, there will likely be media attention surrounding these events. I ask for your patience and understanding as we navigate this situation. Skyline Airlines is committed to becoming a leader in equitable, respectful service for all passengers." As Devon ended his address, applause broke out from several passengers. Others remained silent, perhaps uncomfortable with the confrontation of prejudice that had occurred in their presence. Devon returned to his seat with Zara, who had grown sleepy after the stress and medication. He gently buckled her in, letting her rest against his side with Mr. Whiskers clutched in her arms. Walter leaned across the aisle. "That was well said, young man. Your daughter is fortunate to have a father who stands up for what's right while maintaining such dignity." "Thank you," Devon replied, genuinely appreciative of the older man's support throughout the ordeal. James approached with a cold compress. "For your cheek, sir," he offered quietly. "And I wanted to say that many of us at Skyline will welcome the changes you plan to make." Devon accepted the compress gratefully. "I'd like to hear more about your experiences with the airline, James. People like you will be essential to creating the culture we need." As Devon held the compress to his face, he noticed passengers throughout the cabin on their phones, likely sharing updates about the situation. His own phone buzzed continuously with messages from his executive team, board members, and crisis management consultants. One message caught his attention. "News crews gathering at JFK Terminal. Police presence requested as precaution. Recommend private exit strategy for you and Zara." Devon sighed. The incident had escalated beyond anything he'd anticipated. What began as a simple fact-finding mission had become a very public moment of reckoning, not just for one flight attendant, but for an entire corporate culture that had allowed such behavior to persist. As Zara slept beside him, Devon reflected on his late wife's words. "Change doesn't come from comfort. It comes from confronting discomfort head-on." Amara had always been the activist between them, pushing for systemic change rather than individual accommodation. Now Devon found himself in a position to honor her memory by transforming an airline culture from the inside out. The remainder of the flight passed in relative calm. Cassandra remained out of sight, while James and another attendant provided attentive service to all passengers. Devon noticed a marked change in how some passengers regarded him, a mixture of respect, curiosity, and in some cases, embarrassment for having witnessed his mistreatment without intervening earlier. As the captain announced their descent into New York, Devon gently woke Zara. "We're almost there, Princess. Time to get ready for landing." Zara rubbed her eyes sleepily. "Is the mean lady gone?" "Yes, sweetheart, and we're going to make sure that what happened today helps make things better for everyone." As the plane began its final approach, Devon looked out the window at the New York skyline emerging through the clouds. What awaited them on the ground would be challenging. Media attention, corporate fallout, difficult conversations. But, for the first time since acquiring Skyline Airlines, Devon felt absolute clarity about the path forward. The wheels touched down on the runway, and a new chapter began. The aircraft taxied toward the gate at JFK International Airport, but Devon could already see the commotion waiting for them. Through the small oval window, news vans with satellite dishes were visible near the terminal building, and airport security personnel stood in greater numbers than usual. Word had spread faster than the plane could fly. "Daddy, why are there so many people?" Zara asked, peering over Devon's shoulder at the growing crowd. "They're interested in what happened on our flight," Devon explained gently. "But don't worry, we won't have to talk to them." The captain's voice came over the intercom. "Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to John F. Kennedy International Airport. Local time is 2:45 p.m. with clear skies and a temperature of 73 degrees. Please remain seated with your seatbelts fastened until we reach the gate and the seatbelt sign is turned off." There was a brief pause before he continued, his tone more personal. I also want to acknowledge the unfortunate incidents that occurred during our flight today. Skyline Airlines does not condone discrimination or mistreatment of any passenger. We sincerely apologize to those affected and assure you that appropriate measures are being taken. Devon appreciated the captain's statement, though he knew it would take much more than words to address the systemic issues at play. His phone buzzed with a message from Terrence, his COO. Private security waiting at separate exit. Follow ground crew instructions upon landing. As the plane approached the gate, James came to Devon's row. Mr. Carter, the captain has requested that you and your daughter remain on board until other passengers have deplaned. A security team will escort you through a private exit. Devon nodded. Thank you, James. And thank you for your professionalism throughout this flight. Just doing my job, sir, James replied, though his expression suggested he understood the significance of the day's events. Have you ever found yourself at your lowest point, only to realize it was the perfect moment for clarity and transformation? Comment number 1 if you've ever had to stand strong in the face of injustice for your family's sake. Like this video if you believe Devon is handling this situation with remarkable grace, and subscribe to follow more stories about turning points that changed lives forever. Do you think Devon should focus on personal justice against Cassandra, or use this opportunity for broader systemic change? The answer lies ahead. As other passengers gathered their belongings and began to deplane, many paused to offer words of support to Devon. What happened to you and your daughter was disgraceful, said a businesswoman who had been seated several rows ahead. I've already emailed Skyline about it. You handled yourself with incredible dignity, another passenger commented. Your daughter is lucky to have such a strong father. Walter, the elderly gentleman who had been their steadfast ally throughout the flight, stopped by their seats. Mr. Carter, it was an honor to witness your grace under pressure today. I hope your actions will lead to meaningful change. Devon shook the man's hand warmly. Thank you for speaking up when it mattered, sir. People like you make a difference. Walter nodded thoughtfully. I've seen too much injustice in my 82 years to remain silent now. Your wife would be proud of how you protected your daughter today. The mention of Amara caught Devon off guard. How did you know about my wife? Walter smiled gently. Your daughter mentioned her a few times, said her mommy was watching from heaven. Devon felt a lump in his throat as he nodded. Yes, she is. As the last passengers exited, Devon and Zara remained in their seats. Through the windows, they could see the media frenzy growing. Several passengers were already giving interviews near the gate, likely recounting what they had witnessed. Captain Reynolds emerged from the cockpit and approached them. Mr. Carter, I can't express how deeply sorry I am about today's events. I've been with Skyline for 20 years, and this is not the company I thought I was serving. 20 years. Gives you valuable perspective, Captain Reynolds, Devon replied. I'd like to hear your thoughts on where the airline has gone wrong and how we might correct course. The captain seemed surprised by the genuine request. I'd be honored to contribute. Sir, the frontline staff often see problems that never reach the executive level. Devon nodded. Expect a meeting invitation next week. I want to hear from people at every level of the organization. After the aircraft emptied, a security team boarded to escort Devon and Zara through a service entrance. As they prepared to leave, Devon noticed James hesitating nearby. Was there something else, James? The young flight attendant stepped forward. Sir, I wanted you to know that what happened today, it's not isolated. There's a pattern of overlooking certain behaviors, especially when complaints come from minority passengers. Devon's expression grew serious. Have you reported these issues before? James nodded. Multiple times. The reports disappear into HR and nothing changes. Some of us have stopped trying. That changes now, Devon said firmly. I'd like your contact information. Your perspective will be valuable as we move forward. As they left the aircraft, Devon was struck by the stark contrast between the beginning and end of their journey. They had boarded as anonymous passengers, subjected to prejudice and discrimination. They were deplaning as the center of a viral story about racism in the airline industry. with the unique power to actually change the system. The security team guided them through service corridors and employee-only areas, bypassing the main terminal where media had gathered. Zara held tightly to her father's hand. Mr. Whiskers clutched in her other arm. "Are we in trouble, Daddy?" she asked as they hurried through the labyrinthine passageways. "No, Princess. We're not in trouble. Sometimes when important things happen, a lot of people want to talk about it. We're just taking a quieter way out." They emerged at a private exit where a black SUV waited. As they approached the vehicle, Devon spotted Terrence Washington, his chief operations officer, standing beside it. "Devon!" Terrence greeted him with concern, his eyes immediately going to the still visible mark on Devon's cheek. "Are you both all right?" "We're managing," Devon replied, helping Zara into the vehicle. "It's been a difficult day." Once they were settled in the SUV and moving away from the airport, Terrence updated Devon on the rapidly evolving situation. "The videos have gone viral. Every major news network is covering it. Social media is exploding with hashtags about Skyline Airlines and racial discrimination." Devon gazed out the window, watching the New York skyline pass by. "And the board?" Terrence grimaced. "They're in panic mode. Half of them want to issue a standard corporate apology and hope it blows over. The other half recognize this as the watershed moment it is." "And where do you stand?" Devon asked, though he already knew the answer. He had hired Terrence specifically for his integrity and commitment to ethical leadership. "I think we have a rare opportunity," Terrence replied thoughtfully. "How often? Does a company's owner personally experience the worst of their service? You have credibility and moral authority that no consultant or diversity trainer could ever bring." Devon nodded, looking down at Zara, who had fallen asleep against his side, exhausted from the day's events. "I made a promise to Amara before she died," he said quietly. "I promised her that I would raise our daughter in a world where she wouldn't face the same barriers we did. Obviously, I can't change the entire world overnight, but I can change the parts I have influence over." Terrence's expression softened at the mention of Devon's late wife. "Amara would be proud of how you handled today." "Would she?" Devon questioned, doubt creeping into his voice for the first time. "I wonder if I should have revealed my identity sooner, prevented the escalation, and missed seeing the real Skyline experience? Missed documenting the very issues you need to address?" Terrence shook his head. "No, you did exactly what was needed. Now we have irrefutable evidence and a mandate for change." As their SUV navigated through Manhattan traffic toward Devon's penthouse apartment, his phone rang. The screen displayed Skyline Board, emergency call. Devon sighed, knowing this conversation was inevitable, but not looking forward to it. "Put it on speaker," he told Terrence. "I want you to hear this." Devon answered the call. "This is Devon Carter." "Devon, it's Richard Peterson, board chairman." The voice sounded tense, uncomfortable. "We've called an emergency meeting to discuss today's unfortunate events." "I assume you've seen the videos?" Devon asked. "Yes, and while the behavior displayed was certainly inappropriate, we need to be careful about our response. These situations can be complex, and there are always multiple perspectives to consider." Devon felt a surge of anger at the chairman's hedging. "Richard, let me be clear. There is nothing complex about what happened today. A Skyline employee discriminated against passengers based on race, endangered a child's life, and physically assaulted me. What perspective am I missing?" The silence on the other end spoke volumes. Finally, Richard cleared his throat. "Of course, those actions are indefensible. We're prepared to terminate the flight attendant immediately and issue a public apology." "That's not enough," Devon replied firmly. "One termination doesn't address the systemic issues that allowed this behavior in the first place. This isn't about one bad employee. It's about a culture that tacitly permits discrimination." "What exactly are you proposing?" Richard asked, wariness evident in his tone. "A complete overhaul of our training, reporting, and accountability systems, new diversity initiatives at every level of the company, an independent audit of past discrimination complaints, and a public commitment to measurable improvements, with transparent reporting on our progress." Another silence followed. "Devon, Those kinds of initiatives could be quite costly and time-consuming. More costly than the lawsuit we'd face if Zara had suffered serious harm from being denied her inhaler. More costly than the brand damage we're already experiencing. More costly than knowing we're running a company that treats people differently, based on the color of their skin. Terrence gave Devin a subtle thumbs up as Richard stammered, "Well, when you put it that way." "I'm putting it the only way it can be put," Devin said firmly. "This isn't negotiable. Either the board backs these changes, or I'll use my controlling interest to replace board members who don't share my vision for an airline where everyone is treated with dignity." After a few more minutes of discussion, the call ended with a reluctant agreement to meet the following morning to discuss Devin's proposed changes in detail. Devin leaned back against the leather seat, suddenly feeling the full weight of the day's events. His cheek still stung from Cassandra's slap, but the emotional toll weighed heavier than any physical discomfort. "You okay?" Terrence asked quietly. Devin glanced at Zara, still sleeping peacefully against him. "I keep thinking about what Amara would say. She always told me that my success would mean nothing if I didn't use it to create meaningful change." "She was a wise woman," Terrence nodded. "And now you have that opportunity." As the SUV pulled up to Devin's building, his phone buzzed with another notification. Terrence glanced at it. The video of the slap just hit 2 million views. "It's being picked up by national news networks." Devin sighed. "Make sure our PR team has my statement. I want to get ahead of this narrative before it spins out of control." Inside his penthouse apartment, Devin carefully carried Zara to her bedroom. The walls were painted with a mural of the night sky, Amara's final project before her illness had made painting impossible. Devin gently tucked Zara in with Mr. Whiskers, making sure her inhaler was within easy reach on the nightstand. He stood watching his daughter sleep, memories flooding back of Amara doing the same thing. "I'm trying, my love," he whispered to his late wife's memory. "I'm trying to make the world better for her." In the living room, Devin found Terrence setting up laptops and making calls. The impromptu command center seemed appropriate given the circumstances. "Your executive team is on standby for a video conference," Terrence informed him, "and legal wants to discuss potential lawsuits, both against us and ones we might file." Devin nodded, pouring himself a glass of water as he processed the situation. "Before we join any calls, I need a moment to think." He walked to the floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Central Park, the setting sun casting long shadows across the greenery. For years, Devin had built his tech company with a singular focus on excellence and innovation. When he'd sold it for hundreds of millions, he'd seen the acquisition of Skyline Airlines as simply another business opportunity, a struggling company he could turn around with the right management and capital. Never had he imagined that the purchase would put him directly in the path of the same discrimination he'd faced throughout his life. Never had he thought that his daughter would experience such treatment at such a young age, especially on an airline he owned. "What am I missing, Amara?" he whispered, wishing desperately for her wisdom and perspective. "How do I turn this horrible day into something meaningful?" As if in answer, his phone chimed with a text message. It was from Mrs. Jackson, Zara's kindergarten teacher. "Just saw the news. So sorry about what happened to you and Zara. If you need anything, please let me know. Zara can take a few days off if needed." Devin stared at the message, realizing how quickly news of the incident had spread. By tomorrow, everyone in their lives would know what had happened. Zara would return to school as the girl from that viral video. The thought made his stomach tighten. "Devin?" Terrence called from across the room. "The team is ready whenever you are." "I'll be right there," Devin replied, still gazing out at the darkening sky. As he turned to join the video conference, a framed photo on the sideboard caught his eye. Amara speaking at a civil rights rally, her face alight with passion and purpose. Beside it stood another frame containing one of her favorite quotes, "Justice is what love looks like in public." In that moment, clarity washed over Devin. This wasn't just about one flight attendant's actions or even one airline's policies. This was about the countless people who face similar discrimination every day, without the platform, resources, or power to do anything about it. He joined the video conference with renewed determination. His executive team looked tense, clearly. concerned about both him personally and the company's future. "Before we begin," Devin said, his voice steady and clear, "I want to establish something. What happened today was terrible, but it presents an opportunity, not just to fix Skyline Airlines, but to set a new standard for the entire industry." The team exchanged glances, some skeptical, others intrigued. "Discrimination in travel isn't new," Devin continued, "but having an owner experience it firsthand, with video evidence that can't be denied or explained away, that's unprecedented. We're going to use this moment to create real change." For the next hour, they discussed strategy, messaging, and immediate actions. Devin insisted on transparency rather than damage control, accountability rather than excuses. By the end of the call, a clear path forward had emerged, one that acknowledged the failure while committing to substantive change. After the call ended, Devin checked on Zara again, relieved to find her still sleeping peacefully. Back in the living room, he found Terrence reviewing news coverage on his tablet. "How bad is it?" Devin asked. "Mixed," Terrence replied. "Some outlets are focusing on the discrimination angle, others on the Millionaire airline owner revelation. Social media is overwhelmingly supportive of you and critical of Cassandra and Skyline." Devin nodded. "And what about Cassandra? Where is she now?" "Airport security escorted her to a private room after landing. HR has placed her on administrative leave pending investigation, though given the video evidence, termination is a foregone conclusion." Devin was quiet for a moment. "Make sure she receives due process. As justified as my anger is, this can't be just about punishing one person." "You're being more generous than most would be in your position," Terrence observed. "This isn't about generosity," Devin clarified. "It's about effectiveness. Firing Cassandra might feel satisfying, but if the underlying culture remains unchanged, we'll just have different employees exhibiting the same behaviors." Devin's phone rang, his sister Vanessa calling from Chicago. He answered, knowing she would have seen the videos by now. "Devin James Carter," Vanessa's voice came through sharply. "I just saw what happened. Are you and Zara okay?" "We're managing," Devin replied, the familiar comfort of his sister's concern washing over him. "Zara's asleep now. She was scared, but she's resilient." "I can't believe that woman put her hands on you," Vanessa fumed. "And preventing Zara from getting her inhaler? She should be charged with assault and child endangerment." "We're handling it," Devin assured her. "Actually, this might be the push we needed to implement real changes at Skyline." "Always looking for the silver lining," Vanessa sighed. "You sound just like Amara." The comparison warmed Devin's heart. "That's the highest compliment you could give me." After promising to keep Vanessa updated, Devin ended the call and returned to the window. Night had fallen over New York, the city lights twinkling against the darkness. Somewhere out there, Cassandra Wilson was likely facing the consequences of her actions. Somewhere, board members were strategizing how to minimize damage, and countless people were watching the viral videos, seeing a reflection of their own experiences or perhaps confronting uncomfortable truths about societal prejudices. Devin's reflection stared back at him from the window glass, the mark on his cheek still visible. The man looking back at him was not just a successful entrepreneur or a grieving widower or a devoted father. He was all of these things. And now, he was also the face of a movement for change that he never sought but couldn't ignore. "Daddy." Zara's small voice came from behind him. He turned to find her standing in her pajamas, Mr. Whiskers clutched tightly to her chest. "Hey, Princess," Devin said softly, kneeling down to her level. "Did you have a good nap?" She nodded, then reached out to touch his cheek gently. "Does it still hurt?" "No, sweetheart. It's much better now." Zara's brow furrowed in concentration. "Daddy, are you going to fire the mean lady?" The question, so direct and innocent, gave Devin pause. "What do you think should happen?" he asked, curious about his daughter's perspective. Zara considered this seriously. I think she needs to learn to be nice to everyone, not just people who look like her." Devin smiled, once again amazed by his daughter's wisdom. "That's very smart, Zara, and you're right. The most important thing isn't punishing her. It's making sure everyone learns to treat others with kindness and respect. Like Mommy taught us, Zara nodded solemnly. Exactly like Mommy taught us. Devin pulled her into a gentle hug, feeling both the weight of responsibility and the lightness of clarity. In this moment of reflection, at what seemed like their lowest point, he found the strength and purpose to move forward. The morning after the flight incident, Devin woke before sunrise, his mind already racing with plans and strategies. Beside him, Zara had crawled into his bed sometime during the night, Mr. Whiskers tucked securely under her arm. Devin watched, her peaceful sleeping face, marveling at her resilience despite yesterday's traumatic events. Careful not to wake her, Devin slipped out of bed and padded to the kitchen to make coffee. His phone was filled with notifications, news alerts, messages from friends and colleagues, social media tags, and emails from his executive team. The incident had exploded overnight into a national conversation about discrimination in the airline industry. Devin scrolled through some of the headlines. Black tech millionaire slapped by flight attendant on his own airline. Skyline Airlines under fire after viral discrimination video. 5-year-old's asthma attack ignored due to racial profiling. Devin Carter, the airline owner who experienced his company's racism firsthand. As he sipped his coffee, Devin opened his laptop to review the statement his communications team had prepared. It was well-crafted but felt too corporate, too sanitized. This situation called for authenticity, not carefully polished PR language. Terrence arrived at 7 a.m., looking like he hadn't slept much. Board meeting in 2 hours, he reminded Devin. They're nervous. Peterson's been calling me non-stop trying to gauge your mood. Devin nodded. They should be nervous. But this isn't about making the board uncomfortable. It's about creating meaningful change. What's our strategy? Terrence asked, accepting the coffee Devin offered. Transparency, accountability, and transformation, Devin replied. I'm rewriting our statement now, and I want to call some of my contacts in the industry before the board meeting. Over the next hour, Devin made several calls to other Black business leaders and executives in the travel industry. Their responses were unanimous. This was an opportunity to address systemic issues that had plagued the industry for decades. This isn't just about one flight attendant or one airline, said Jordan Williams, CEO of a major hotel chain. This is about acknowledging patterns of discrimination that exist throughout travel and hospitality. Use your platform, urged Natasha Reynolds, a prominent civil rights attorney. Most people who experience this kind of treatment don't have the resources or visibility to force change. By the time Zara wandered into the kitchen, rubbing sleep from her eyes, Devin had compiled advice and commitments of support from a dozen influential figures. A coalition was forming, one that could push for industry-wide standards rather than isolated reforms. Good morning, Princess. Devin greeted her, setting aside his work to make her breakfast. Morning, Daddy, she yawned, climbing onto a bar stool at the kitchen island. Is your face better? Devin touched his cheek, where the mark had faded to a faint redness. Much better. How are you feeling today? Any trouble breathing? Zara shook her head. I'm okay, but I had a dream about the airplane. Devin paused in the middle of pouring cereal. Was it a scary dream? A little, she admitted. But then, in my dream, you made all the airplanes nice for everybody. Devin smiled, once again struck by his daughter's intuitive understanding. That's exactly what I'm trying to do, sweetheart. While Zara ate breakfast, Devin received a text from James, the supportive flight attendant from yesterday's flight. Mr. Carter, I've been thinking about what happened. I have documentation of previous incidents similar to yours that were reported, but ignored. Would this information help? Devin responded immediately. Yes, this is exactly what we need. Can you send securely to my email? Within minutes, Devin received a lengthy email containing incident reports, complaint records, and internal communications that painted a disturbing picture of Skyline's culture. James had been collecting evidence for months, hoping someone would eventually take action. This is gold, Terrence murmured, reading over Devin's shoulder. Proof that yesterday wasn't an isolated incident. Devin nodded grimly. and proof that management was aware and did nothing. As they prepared for the board meeting, Devon's phone rang with a call from an unexpected source, Walter Robinson, the elderly gentleman who had supported them on the flight. "Mr. Carter," Walter's dignified voice came through the speaker. "I hope I'm not intruding, but I wanted to check on you and your daughter." "Not intruding at all, Mr. Robinson," Devon assured him. "We're doing well, thank you, and I appreciate your support yesterday more than I can express." "I'm glad to hear it. The reason I'm calling is that I've been contacted by several news outlets for comments about what happened. Before I speak with anyone, I wanted to coordinate with you." Devon was touched by the man's consideration. "That's very thoughtful. I'm actually preparing for a board meeting where we'll be discussing comprehensive changes to address what happened. Would you be willing to hold off on interviews until after we announce these initiatives?" "Of course," Walter agreed readily. "And if I might make a suggestion, this incident could be viewed as isolated misconduct by one employee, or it could be the catalyst for industry-wide reform. The difference will be in how you frame the response." "You're absolutely right," Devon acknowledged. "And I'm determined to make it the latter." After arranging to keep in touch with Walter, Devon turned his attention to preparing Zara for the day. He had arranged for her regular nanny, Ms. Pauline, to take her to the park while he attended the board meeting. "Will you have to talk about the mean lady today?" Zara asked as Devon helped her choose an outfit. "Yes, Princess. We'll be talking about what happened and how to make sure it doesn't happen to anyone else." Zara nodded seriously. "Make sure. They know about the inhaler part. That was really scary." Devon's heart clenched at the reminder of how his daughter's life had been endangered. "I promise. They'll know everything." Ms. Pauline arrived, expressing her concern about the incident she'd seen on the news. Devon assured her that Zara was doing well, but asked her to watch for any signs of anxiety or breathing difficulties. "We'll have a wonderful day at the park," Ms. Pauline promised, taking Zara's hand. "And maybe ice cream after lunch?" Zara's face lit up at the prospect, and Devon marveled at children's ability to bounce back from trauma when surrounded by love and security. As they left for the park, Zara turned back to give Devon a final instruction. "Make the airplanes nice for everybody, Daddy." "I will, Princess," he promised, her simple directive crystallizing his purpose more clearly than any corporate mission statement could. With Zara safely off to enjoy her day, Devon and Terrence headed to Skyline's New York offices for the emergency board meeting. In the car, Devon reviewed the comprehensive plan he had developed overnight. Not just immediate responses to the incident, but a complete transformation of the airline's culture and practices. "They're going to push back on the cost," Terrence warned as they approached the building. "Let them," Devon replied calmly. "I'm prepared to use my controlling interest if necessary. This isn't negotiable." The Skyline Airlines boardroom was tense when Devon and Terrence entered. 8 board members sat around the polished table, their expressions ranging from concern to outright anxiety. Richard Peterson, the chairman, stood to greet them with forced cordiality. "Devon, first let me say how deeply sorry we all are about yesterday's incident. It was completely unacceptable, and we've already taken steps to terminate Ms. Wilson's employment." Devon nodded acknowledgement, but didn't return the chairman's attempt at a handshake. Terminating one employee doesn't address the systemic issues that allowed her behavior in the first place. As Devon took his seat at the head of the table, he placed a folder before each board member. "This is my comprehensive plan for transforming Skyline's culture and practices. I suggest you review it before we continue." The board members opened their folders, expressions changing to alarm as they scanned the contents. The plan was extensive and would require significant investment: anti-bias training for all employees, revamped hiring practices, new reporting, systems for discrimination complaints, third-party audits of customer service interactions, and public accountability metrics. "Devon," Peterson began cautiously, "while we all agree changes are needed, this plan seems excessive. The financial implications alone are less significant than the moral implications of doing nothing," Devon interrupted firmly. and certainly less costly than the lawsuits and brand damage we'll face if we don't address these issues comprehensively. Another board member, Janet Mills, spoke up. We could implement a scaled-back version, focus on training existing staff rather than these sweeping structural changes. Devin shook his head. Half measures won't work. Yesterday, my 5-year-old daughter nearly suffered serious harm because a Skyline employee decided her medical emergency was less important than her racial prejudice. How many other passengers have faced similar treatment without the platform to speak out? He opened his laptop and turned it to face the board. This is what James Anderson, one of your flight attendants, sent me this morning. Documentation of 27 similar incidents over the past 18 months, all reported through proper channels, all ignored or dismissed. The boardroom fell silent as the implications sank in. This wasn't just about one viral incident. It was about a pattern of behavior that had been tacitly permitted. Furthermore, Devin continued, I've spoken with leaders across the travel industry who are ready to join us in establishing new standards for equitable treatment of all passengers. Skyline can lead this change, or we can be dragged along behind it. But change is coming, with or without your enthusiastic support. Peterson exchanged glances with the other board members, clearly recognizing the determination in Devin's voice. What exactly are you proposing as immediate next steps? Devin laid out his plan. A public statement acknowledging the incident and announcing comprehensive reforms, an independent investigation into past complaints, immediate anti-bias training for all customer-facing staff, and the creation of a new executive position focused on diversity, equity, and inclusion. And regarding Ms. Wilson, Devin added, while her actions were inexcusable, I want to offer her an alternative to simple termination. This caught everyone by surprise. What kind of alternative? Peterson asked skeptically. Education and growth, Devin replied. If she's willing to acknowledge her actions and undergo intensive training, she could become part of our education program, sharing her experience as a cautionary tale for other employees. The board members exchanged confused glances. That's unusually merciful, Janet commented. It's not about mercy, Devin clarified. It's about effectiveness. Firing her might feel satisfying, but it doesn't create lasting change. Transforming her perspective might actually help transform others. As the meeting continued, Devin stood firm on the core elements of his plan while showing flexibility on implementation timelines. By the end's end, the board had reluctantly approved the major initiatives, recognizing that Devin's controlling interest gave him the power to move forward with or without their enthusiasm. As they exited the boardroom, Terrence gave Devin an impressed look. You handled that masterfully. This is just the beginning, Devin replied. The real work starts now. Back in his temporary office at Skyline headquarters, Devin began making calls to implement the first phase of his plan. He arranged for James Anderson to be promoted to head a new passenger dignity initiative, secured commitments from leading diversity consultants to develop training programs, and scheduled meetings with frontline employees to hear their perspectives directly. He was reviewing the public statement when his phone rang with a call from Ms. Pauline. Mr. Carter, she said, her voice warm. Someone special wants to talk to you. Daddy! Zara's excited voice came through the speaker. I drew a picture of you. Ms. Pauline helped me. You're wearing a cape like a superhero. Devin smiled, his heart lightening at his daughter's enthusiasm. A superhero, huh? I can't wait to see it. It's because you're going to make the airplanes. Nice for everybody, Zara explained matter-of-factly. That's what superheroes do. They fix things when they're broken. I'm trying my best, princess, Devin replied, her simple faith in him strengthening his resolve more than any corporate mandate could. After chatting with Zara about her day at the park, Devin returned to his work with renewed energy. The press conference was scheduled for 4 p.m., giving his team time to finalize arrangements and prepare for the media onslaught. An email arrived from the legal department with an update on Cassandra Wilson. She had been interviewed by HR and admitted to her actions but claimed they were reactions to perceived threats rather than racial bias. The legal team recommended immediate termination with no severance, citing clear violations of company policy and potential legal liability. Devon considered the recommendation carefully. While his instinct was to approve the termination, he remembered Zara's words. "I think she needs to learn to be nice to everyone." Perhaps there was a better way forward, one that could turn even this difficult situation into an opportunity for growth and education. He picked up the phone and called the head of HR. "I want to offer Ms. Wilson an alternative path," he explained. "Termination is on the table, but so is a program of education, community service, and eventually speaking to other employees about her experience. The choice should be hers." As the afternoon progressed, Devon's coalition of industry leaders grew. CEOs from 3 other airlines, 2 major hotel chains, and several travel platforms had agreed to join the initiative for industry-wide standards on equitable treatment. What had begun as a personal humiliation was transforming into a movement for systemic change. At 3:30 p.m., Devon reviewed his notes for the press conference one final time. He had insisted on speaking personally rather than having a PR representative deliver prepared remarks. This situation called for authentic leadership, not corporate spin. His phone buzzed with a text from Terrence. "Landing now. ETA 30 minutes. Devon had arranged for Zara to join him at the press conference, wanting her to see firsthand how painful experiences could lead to positive transformation. Ms. Pauline would bring her directly to the venue. As Devon gathered his materials and prepared to leave for the press conference, he paused at the window overlooking the Manhattan skyline. Somewhere out there, millions of people were watching this story unfold, many of them having experienced similar treatment without the platform to speak out. Devon wasn't just representing himself or even Skyline Airlines, he was representing all those whose voices had been silenced. With renewed determination, he straightened his tie and headed for the door. The next phase of this journey was about to begin, and he was ready to transform a moment of personal humiliation into a movement for lasting change. The atrium of Skyline Airlines' New York headquarters buzzed with activity as journalists set up cameras and microphones. Security personnel established boundaries, checking credentials, and maintaining order. Behind a temporary partition, Devon reviewed his talking points one final time while waiting for Zara and Ms. Pauline to arrive. "Media presence is even bigger than we anticipated," Terrence reported, returning from a quick assessment of the scene. "Every major network plus international press, social media journalists too. The videos hit over 20 million views overnight." Devon nodded, adjusting his tie. He had chosen a charcoal suit with a blue shirt, professional but approachable, projecting both authority and authenticity. "And our coalition partners? Representatives from 5 airlines, 3 hotel chains, and the Travel Industry Association are here. They'll join you on stage after your initial statement." The door opened, and Ms. Pauline entered with Zara, who immediately ran to her father. "Daddy, I brought my superhero drawing for good luck." Devon knelt to embrace his daughter, accepting the colorful crayon drawing depicting him with a flowing cape. "It's perfect, Princess. I'll keep it right here in my jacket pocket close to my heart." As he carefully folded the drawing and tucked it away, Devon noticed Zara studying his face. "Are you nervous, Daddy?" "A little," he admitted honestly, "but that's okay. Sometimes being a little nervous helps us do important things better." Zara nodded seriously. "Like when I had my dance recital and my tummy felt funny. But you said it was just my body getting ready to do something brave." "Exactly like that." Devon smiled, once again amazed by his daughter's emotional intelligence. A staff member appeared at the door. "Mr. Carter, we're ready when you are, and there's a situation you should be aware of." Devon stood, instantly, alert. "What kind of situation?" "Cassandra Wilson is here. She's demanding to speak with you before the press conference." The room fell silent. Devon exchanged glances with Terrence, whose expression reflected his own surprise. "Where is she now?" Devon asked. "Security is holding her in a conference room down the hall. She's with someone who identified himself as her attorney." Devon considered his options carefully. Confronting Cassandra before the press conference carried risks, but refusing to see her might create an unwanted spectacle if she decided to make a scene. "I'll speak with her," he decided. Terrence, please stay with Zara. Ms. Pauline stepped forward. Perhaps we should take Zara somewhere else while you handle this? Devon nodded gratefully. That's a good idea. Zara, Miss Pauline is going to take you to get a snack, and I'll see you right before we go on stage, okay? After they left, Devon straightened his shoulders and followed the staff member to the conference room. Through the glass door, he could see Cassandra Wilson sitting beside an older man in a suit, presumably her attorney. Her posture was rigid, her expression a mixture of defiance and apprehension. Devon took a deep breath and entered the room. Cassandra's eyes widened slightly as she took in his presence. The mark on his cheek had faded but remained faintly visible, a reminder of their last interaction. Mr. Carter, her attorney began, rising to his feet. Thank you for agreeing to speak with us. I'm Howard Benson, representing Ms. Wilson in this matter. Devon nodded acknowledgement but kept his eyes on Cassandra. What did you want to discuss? Howard cleared his throat. My client recognizes that her actions yesterday were inappropriate. However, we believe there were mitigating circumstances that have not been considered. Ms. Wilson has served Skyline Airlines for 15 years with an exemplary record. Exemplary? Devon interrupted, raising an eyebrow. I have documentation of 7 previous complaints against Ms. Wilson specifically related to discriminatory treatment of passengers of color. All were filed through proper channels. All were dismissed or ignored. Cassandra's face flushed. That's not true. Those complaints were misunderstandings. Were they? Devon asked quietly. Was it a misunderstanding when you denied my daughter her inhaler during an asthma attack? Was it a misunderstanding when you physically struck me? Howard attempted to regain control of the conversation. Mr. Carter, we're not here to relitigate yesterday's events. We're here to discuss a path forward that serves everyone's interests. And what path would that be? Devon asked, his tone even but firm. My client is prepared to issue a private apology to you and your daughter in exchange for a mutual non-disparagement agreement and a reasonable severance package. Devon stared at them in disbelief. You want me to pay her to leave quietly and agree not to discuss what happened? It would allow both parties to move forward without prolonged public scrutiny, Howard suggested smoothly. Devon studied Cassandra's face, looking for any sign of genuine remorse. What he saw instead was calculation, a person concerned primarily with consequences to herself rather than the harm she had caused. Ms. Wilson, Devon addressed her directly. Do you understand why your actions yesterday were wrong? Cassandra shifted uncomfortably. I reacted based on my training to identify potential threats. That's not what I asked, Devon cut in. I asked if you understand why your actions were wrong. The room fell silent as Cassandra struggled to formulate a response that wouldn't incriminate her further. Finally, she spoke. I shouldn't have slapped you. That was unprofessional. And denying my daughter her inhaler, directing me to economy bathrooms, spilling coffee on my laptop, were those actions also merely unprofessional, or were they manifestations of something deeper? Howard interjected quickly. My client is not admitting to any discriminatory intent. Then we have nothing further to discuss, Devon said, firmly, turning toward the door. Wait, Cassandra called out, her voice sharp with panic. You can't just destroy my career over one bad day. Devon turned back slowly. I'm not destroying your career, Ms. Wilson. Your actions did that. Actions that endangered my child and reflected a pattern of behavior that Skyline Airlines tacitly permitted for too long. So that's it? She demanded. 15 years of service means nothing? Actually, Devon replied, I came to this meeting prepared to offer you an alternative to termination. A path that would include education, community service, and eventually speaking to other employees about your experience and what you learned from it. Hope flickered briefly in Cassandra's eyes before Devon continued. But that offer was contingent on genuine acknowledgement and remorse for your actions, not just concern for your own future. Based on this conversation, I don't believe you're ready for that path. Howard tried again. Mr. Carter, perhaps we can... The press conference begins in 15 minutes, Devon interrupted. I'll be announcing comprehensive changes to address the systemic issues that allowed yesterday's incident to occur. Ms. Wilson, you'll be notified of the company's decision regarding your employment through official channels. As Devon turned to leave again, Cassandra stood suddenly. This isn't fair. You're using your money and power to make an example of me while pretending to care about justice. Devon paused at the door. No, Ms. Wilson. I'm using my position to ensure that no other passenger experiences what my daughter and I did yesterday. The difference matters. With that, he left the room, closing the door firmly behind him. The encounter had solidified his conviction that meaningful change required more than addressing individual behavior. It demanded systemic transformation. Back in the preparation area, Devon found Zara had returned with Ms. Pauline. She was coloring contentedly, seemingly unaware of the tension surrounding the upcoming press conference. Everything okay? Terrence asked quietly. Devon nodded. Just confirmed we're on the right path. Is everyone ready? All set. Coalition partners are in position, statement is finalized, and media is primed. We've also arranged for Skyline employees to watch via livestream at all locations. A staff member approached with final instructions. Mr. Carter, will begin with your statement, followed by questions. The coalition announcement comes after. We've arranged for Zara to sit with Ms. Pauline just off stage where you can see her, but cameras won't focus on her. Devon knelt before his daughter. Ready, princess? Remember, you just need to sit with Ms. Pauline. You don't have to say anything or answer any questions. Zara nodded solemnly. I know, Daddy. I'll be super quiet and super good. You're always good, Devon assured her, kissing the top of her head. As they prepared to enter the atrium, a commotion erupted near the main doors. Security personnel moved quickly to intercept Cassandra Wilson, who had somehow evaded her handlers and was attempting to approach the press area. I have a right to tell my side, she was shouting as security staff blocked her path. He's destroying my reputation without hearing the full story. Journalists swiveled their cameras toward the disturbance, capturing the unfolding drama. Devon made a split-second decision. Let her through, he instructed security, but keep her away from my daughter. The security team looked uncertain, but complied, creating a path for Cassandra while establishing a protective perimeter around Zara and Ms. Pauline. As Devon stepped onto the stage, camera flashes exploded around him. He took his position at the podium, noting that Cassandra had been escorted to a position at the side of the room where she could be seen but not interrupt. Good afternoon, Devon began, his voice steady and clear. My name is Devon Carter. Yesterday, my 5-year-old daughter Zara and I boarded Skyline Airlines Flight 1426 from Atlanta to New York. What should have been a routine journey became something else entirely. A painful reminder that discrimination remains a reality. In America, regardless of one's achievements or status, Devon recounted the events of the flight chronologically, describing the initial subtle discrimination, the escalation, the asthma attacks, and finally the shocking slap. Throughout his account, he maintained a calm, measured tone, letting the facts speak for themselves. What makes this situation unique is not that it happened, Devon continued. Similar incidents occur daily across America. What makes it unique is that it happened to someone with the platform and resources to demand meaningful change, and the authority to implement that change as the owner of the airline in question. Murmurs rippled through the assembled journalists as Devon outlined the comprehensive reforms he was implementing at Skyline, from anti-bias training to new reporting systems to public accountability metrics. But this isn't just about one airline, Devon emphasized. This is about an industry-wide problem that requires an industry-wide solution. He gestured to the coalition partners who rose from their seats to join him on stage. Executives from major airlines, hotel chains, and travel associations who had committed to implementing similar reforms across their organizations. Together, we are establishing new standards for equitable treatment of all travelers, with transparent reporting and accountability measures that will transform the industry. As Devon concluded his prepared remarks and opened the floor for questions, he noticed Cassandra pushing forward, attempting to interrupt. Security moved to intercept her, but Devon raised a hand to stop them. Ms. Wilson appears to have something to say, he he acknowledged, his voice calm but firm. "In the interest of transparency, I'm willing to hear it." The room fell silent as Cassandra stepped forward, clearly unprepared for this opportunity. Her attorney hurried to her side, whispering urgently in her ear, but she shook him off. "You're painting me as a racist," she began, her voice shaking with emotion. "But you don't know me. You don't know my life or my struggles." Devon remained silent, allowing her to continue. "I've served thousands of passengers over 15 years, Cassandra insisted. "One bad day shouldn't define my entire career. I was doing my job, following security protocols." "Which security protocol required you to deny a child her inhaler during an asthma attack?" asked a journalist from the front row, unable to contain herself. Cassandra faltered. "That was a misunderstanding." "I thought he was reaching for a weapon," another reporter interjected. "A black father trying to help his daughter breathe was interpreted as a security threat?" Devon raised a hand, restoring order. "Ms. Wilson is entitled to explain her perspective. However, I believe the videos speak for themselves." On cue, screens around the atrium displayed footage from multiple angles showing the key moments from the flight. Cassandra directing Devon to economy bathrooms, knocking away Zara's inhaler, and finally delivering the shocking slap. Cassandra stared at the screens in horror, seeing her actions through the eyes of the public for the first time. Whatever justification she had constructed in her mind crumbled as she watched the objective reality of her behavior. I didn't realize," she stammered. Devon spoke quietly into the microphone. "This isn't about public humiliation, Ms. Wilson. It's about accountability and change. As I mentioned earlier, Skyline is prepared to offer a path forward that includes education rather than simple termination, if you're willing to acknowledge the harm caused and commit to growth." For a moment, it seemed Cassandra might accept this olive branch. Then her expression hardened again. "This is a setup. You're using me as a scapegoat to promote yourself as some kind of social justice hero." Devon shook his head sadly. "No, Ms. Wilson. I'm using a painful personal experience to create positive change. The difference matters." As security escorted Cassandra from the atrium, Devon returned to addressing the press. For the next hour, he fielded questions about specific reforms, timelines for implementation, and coordination with industry partners. Throughout, he maintained his focus on systemic solutions rather than individual blame. Near the end of the session, a reporter asked the question Devon had been anticipating. "Mr. Carter, do you believe Ms. Wilson's actions were motivated by racial bias?" Devon considered his response carefully, aware that his words would be dissected and analyzed extensively. "What I believe about Ms. Wilson's motivations is less important than what her actions reveal about the systems that enabled them. When an employee feels empowered to discriminate against passengers based on their appearance, that reflects organizational failures that extend far beyond any individual." As the press conference concluded, Devon noticed Zara growing tired. He wrapped up with a final statement. "The measure of a society isn't whether discrimination occurs. It's how we respond when it does. At Skyline Airlines and across the travel industry, we are committed to responding with transparency, accountability, and meaningful change." The room erupted in applause as Devon stepped away from the podium. He immediately went to Zara, lifting her into his arms as cameras continued to flash around them. "You did great, Princess," he whispered. "I'm so proud of you." "Did the mean lady learn to be nice?" Zara asked innocently. Devon sighed. "Not yet, sweetheart. But maybe someday. And in the meantime, we're going to make sure the airplanes are nice for everybody, just like you said." As they made their way through the crowd, Devon received congratulations and expressions of support from coalition partners and journalists alike. What had begun as a humiliating and frightening experience had transformed into a powerful catalyst for change, not just for one airline, but for an entire industry. Outside the building, their car waited to take them home. As Devon settled, Zara in her seat, he glanced back at the Skyline headquarters where executives and board members were already beginning to implement the changes he had mandated. The real work was just beginning, but for the first time since acquiring the airline, Devon felt absolute clarity about the path forward. 1 month after the infamous flight that changed everything, Devon stood in the Skyline Airlines Training Center, watching as a diverse group of flight attendants participated in the new comprehensive anti-bias training program. The facility buzzed with engaged discussion as instructors guided employees through scenarios designed to identify and counter unconscious prejudice. "How's it going?" Terrence asked, joining Devon at the observation window. "Better than expected," Devon replied. "The participation level is impressive. People seem genuinely invested in the process." The transformation of Skyline Airlines over the past month had been remarkable. The initial media firestorm had gradually shifted from scandal coverage to stories about corporate responsibility and industry reform. Skyline's stock, after an initial drop, had rebounded strongly as investors recognized the long-term value of the company's new direction. "The customer satisfaction numbers are in," Terrence reported, handing Devon a tablet, displaying colorful graphs. "Up 12% overall, with a 28% increase among minority passengers." Devon nodded, pleased but not surprised. When people feel respected and valued, it shows in how they experience the service. This isn't just about avoiding incidents. It's about creating a genuinely better experience for everyone. They walked through the training center, stopping occasionally to observe different sessions. In one room, James Anderson, newly promoted to head the Passenger Dignity Initiative, was leading a workshop on recognizing and addressing microaggressions. "James is a natural teacher," Devon observed. "Promoting him was one of our best decisions." "He's become something of a celebrity within the company," Terrence agreed. "The younger staff especially look up to him." In another area, flight crews practice de-escalation techniques and appropriate responses to medical emergencies. The new protocols emphasized passenger safety above all else, with clear guidelines that removed subjective judgment from emergency situations. Devon checked his watch. "We should head to the gate. Zara will be getting excited." Today marked another milestone in Skyline's transformation. Devon and Zara would be taking their first flight since the incident, this time with full transparency about Devon's ownership, but no special treatment beyond their first-class tickets. Devon wanted to experience the airline service as a regular passenger once again, to see firsthand how the changes were being implemented. As they drove to the airport, Devon reflected on the whirlwind month behind them. The viral videos had sparked a national conversation about discrimination in travel, with major news outlets running multi-part series examining the experiences of minority travelers across various carriers. Skyline had become the unexpected leader in addressing these issues, with Devon's comprehensive reforms setting new standards for the industry. 5 other airlines had already adopted similar programs, and legislation had been introduced in Congress to establish federal guidelines for equitable treatment in air travel. Cassandra Wilson's story had taken unexpected turns as well. After the confrontation at the press conference, she had initially threatened legal action against Skyline for wrongful termination. However, faced with overwhelming video evidence and documentation of previous complaints, her case quickly fell apart. In a surprising development, Cassandra had eventually reached out to Devon through intermediaries, expressing a desire to understand why her actions had been problematic. After careful consideration, Devon had arranged for her to participate in a restorative justice program, working with diversity educators to confront her biases and their impacts. While Devon remained skeptical about her motivations, he believed in second chances and the possibility of genuine growth. Cassandra would never work for Skyline again, but her journey of education might eventually benefit others facing similar challenges. At the airport, Devon and Zara approached the Skyline check-in counter with their luggage. The attendant, a young black woman, greeted them warmly. "Good morning, Mr. Carter and Miss Zara. Welcome to Skyline Airlines. I have your first class boarding passes ready for Flight 302 to Chicago." Devon noticed the woman's name tag. "Thank you, Tanya. Is this a new position for you?" "Yes, sir," she beamed. "I was promoted from the call center last week as part of the new advancement initiative. It's been wonderful." Skyline's workforce diversification program had already made significant changes to the company's demographics, particularly in customer-facing roles and management positions. Promotion pathways had been established to ensure talented employees from all backgrounds could advance within the organization. Security was uneventful. Devon noted with satisfaction that Skyline had partnered with TSA to provide additional training on avoiding racial profiling during screenings. At the gate, several passengers recognized Devon and Zara, offering words of support and thanks for the changes they had inspired. "Look, Daddy!" Zara pointed excitedly at a colorful display near the boarding area. A new Skyline Promises poster outlining the airline's commitments to passengers, with dignity and respect for all, featured prominently at the top. "What do you think, Princess?" Devon asked, kneeling beside her. "I think it's good," Zara nodded seriously. "Is this because of what happened to us?" "Yes, it is," Devon confirmed. "Sometimes hard experiences can lead to important changes that help lots of people." Boarding began smoothly, with clear announcements and organized processes. As they stepped onto the aircraft, Devon was pleased to see a diverse flight crew greeting passengers with genuine warmth. "Mr. Carter, Miss Zara, welcome aboard," the IT's lead flight attendant, an Asian-American woman named Michelle, greeted them by name. "We're honored to have you flying with us today." Their first-class seats were comfortable and spotlessly clean. Devon helped Zara get settled, noting the activity book and small stuffed airplane waiting for her, part of Skyline's new child-friendly initiative. "Look, Daddy, the plane has a note for me," Zara exclaimed, finding a personalized welcome card with her name. As other passengers boarded, Devon observed the crew's interactions carefully. Every passenger received the same level of attention and respect, regardless of appearance or status. The transformation was subtle but unmistakable, a culture shift that had begun with policies but was now being embodied in everyday actions. The captain's voice came over the intercom. "Good morning, everyone. This is Captain Rivera welcoming you aboard Skyline Airlines Flight 302 to Chicago. We're honored to have you with us today and committed to making your journey safe, comfortable, and respectful for every passenger." Devon smiled at the inclusion of respectful, a small but significant addition to the standard announcement that reflected Skyline's new priorities. As the plane taxied toward the runway, Devon received a text from Walter Robinson, the elderly gentleman who had supported them during the infamous flight. "Saw your interview yesterday. Proud of what you've accomplished at Skyline. Amara would be too." The message touched Devon deeply. He and Walter had stayed in contact, with the older man providing valuable perspective as Devon navigated the challenges of implementing change. Walter had even joined Skyline's newly formed Passenger Advisory Council, where his experiences as a lifelong traveler who had witnessed decades of change in the industry proved invaluable. "Daddy, are you crying?" Zara asked, noticing Devon's emotional reaction to the text. "Just a little, Princess," Devon admitted, tucking his phone away. "Sometimes people say things that make us happy and sad at the same time. Like when we talk about Mommy?" Zara asked perceptively. "Exactly like that." Devon squeezed her hand gently. The takeoff was smooth, and once they reached cruising altitude, Michelle approached with beverages. "Apple juice for Miss Zara and coffee for you, Mr. Carter." "You remembered," Devon noted, impressed. "We've implemented a new system for tracking passenger preferences," Michelle explained, "but honestly, I didn't need it. Everyone at Skyline knows about Zara and her apple juice." Devon laughed, realizing that his daughter had become something of a mascot for the airline's transformation. "Well, we both appreciate the attention to detail." As the flight progressed, Devon observed countless small improvements in service, more attentive crew, better communication, genuine efforts to make every passenger feel valued. The changes weren't just about avoiding discrimination. They were about elevating the entire experience for everyone. Midway through the flight, Devon used the first-class lavatory, noting with approval the new emergency medical information cards posted inside. Another change inspired by Zara's asthma attack. Clear protocols now ensured that medical needs would always take priority over procedural concerns. Back in his seat, Devon found Zara chatting animatedly with Michelle about her stuffed animals. "Mr. Whiskers is still my favorite," she was explaining, "but Planey is nice too." She held up the small stuffed airplane the airline had provided. She's quite the conversationalist, Michelle commented to Devon with a smile. Just like her mother, Devon replied, a bittersweet warmth filling him at the comparison. As they began their descent into Chicago, Devon reflected on how far they had come in just 1 month. The trauma of that original flight had been transformed into purpose, not just for him and Skyline, but for an entire industry now being held to higher standards. After landing, as they waited to deplane, Captain Rivera emerged from the cockpit to greet them personally. "Mr. Carter, thank you for flying with us today. The changes you've implemented have made Skyline a company we can all be proud to work for." "Thank you, Captain," Devon replied, genuinely touched by the sentiment. "But the real credit goes to employees like you who are bringing these changes to life every day." As they exited the aircraft, Devon noticed a familiar face waiting in the jet bridge, James Anderson, who had been sent ahead to Chicago to conduct training sessions. "Welcome to Chicago, Mr. Carter," James greeted them with a broad smile. "And hello, Miss Zara. How was your flight?" "It was perfect," Zara declared, holding up her new stuffed airplane. "Everyone was nice, and nobody was mean to anybody." Theo. Adults laughed at her straightforward assessment, but Devon knew she had captured the essence of what they were striving for. A travel experience where every passenger was treated with basic human dignity and respect. "That's exactly what we want to hear," James replied seriously. "That's what Skyline is about now." As they walked through the terminal, Devon's phone buzzed with a news alert. Opening it, he found a story about 3 other major airlines announcing diversity and anti-bias initiatives modeled after Skyline's program. The transformation was spreading throughout the industry, creating a ripple effect that would benefit countless travelers. "Good news?" James asked, noticing Devon's smile. "Very good news," Devon confirmed. "It looks like our changes are inspiring others. This is becoming bigger than just Skyline." Outside the terminal, a car waited to take them to their hotel. As they settled into the back seat, Zara leaned against Devon's arm, tired but content after the journey. "Daddy," she said sleepily, "I think Mommy would be happy about the nice airplane." Devon swallowed the lump in his throat. "I think so too, Princess. I think she'd be very happy." As the car pulled away from the airport, Devon gazed back at the Skyline aircraft, visible through the terminal windows. What had begun as a painful personal experience had transformed into something profoundly meaningful. Not just the reform of one airline, but the beginning of an industry-wide movement toward greater equity and respect. "You know what, Zara?" Devon said softly. "I think this is just the beginning of our journey." His daughter smiled up at him, her eyes heavy with approaching sleep. "But it's a good beginning, right, Daddy?" Devon nodded, certain of this truth above all others. "Yes, Princess. It's a very good beginning indeed." Have you ever witnessed discrimination while traveling? Share your experiences in the comments below. If you believe more companies should take a stand against racism like Devon did, hit that like button and subscribe to our channel for more stories about everyday heroes making real change in the world. Would you have handled this situation differently than Devon? Let us know your thoughts. Thank you for joining us on this journey, and remember, sometimes our most painful experiences become the catalyst for the most meaningful transformations. Like, subscribe, share, and we'll see you in the next video. This story powerfully illustrates how privilege and position can be used to create meaningful change in the face of discrimination. Devon Carter could have simply fired Cassandra and moved on, but he recognized that addressing individual behavior without tackling systemic issues would only perpetuate the cycle. His experience reveals that true transformation requires both personal courage and institutional commitment. The journey also demonstrates that children like Zara perceive racism far earlier than adults often realize. Rather than shielding her from these realities, Devon equipped her with the emotional tools to maintain dignity while working toward change. He honored his late wife's wisdom by showing that confronting discrimination isn't just about punishment, but about creating educational opportunities and structural reforms. Perhaps most importantly, the story reminds us that positions of power come with responsibility. When Devon experienced firsthand what countless travelers face daily without recourse, He leveraged his unique position to demand industry-wide accountability. His approach teaches us that effective leadership means turning personal pain into collective progress, and that true justice isn't about revenge, but about ensuring no one else suffers the same treatment. Have you or someone you know ever experienced discrimination while traveling? Share your story in the comments below. Your experiences matter and can help others feel less alone in their struggles. If you believe businesses should be held accountable for creating environments where everyone is treated with dignity and respect, hit that like button and subscribe to our channel. We share powerful stories about everyday people standing up against injustice and creating meaningful change. Would you have handled this situation differently than Devin did? Was his approach of systemic reform better than seeking personal revenge against Cassandra? Let us know your thoughts. Thank you for joining us on this journey of reflection and growth. Remember that each of us has the power to create ripples of change in our own spheres of influence. Sometimes our most painful experiences become the catalyst for the most significant transformations. Like, subscribe, share this video with someone who needs to hear this message, and we'll see you in the next powerful story.